Chapter 4. The narration shifts from Christ Oriko to Ike Mosodi, as the narrator is in a conversation with Elewa. Ikem asks Elewa to go back home late at night because he does not want her to sleep outside like the other girls in Basa do. He shifts the conversation to the policeman who beats his wife all the time while waiting for a taxi to take Elewa back home. He cannot take her home in his car because he claims that his battery has gone dead. Ikem wants the freedom to return to his home alone and have a shower before going to bed. He also finds it unappetizing to see a woman naked early in the morning, and he is a workaholic who does not want to be disturbed. It should be noted that Ike Mosodi is a very hardworking man and he puts his work first before pleasure. Elewa draws Ikem's attention to the insecurity that is rocking Basa, especially as a young girl had just been killed the previous week. Despite the lame excuse, Elewa thinks otherwise and tells Ikem not to come and look for her anymore when he needs sexual gratification. Both of these two people love one another, and Ikem knows that even though Elewa is very angry, she will be the first person to call him early in the morning to ask how he is doing or to ask about his welfare. Ikem also loves her because she is an expert in love making. A taxi arrives and Ikem jokingly attacks the taxi driver of disobeying traffic rules, quoting the law. The driver apologizes and gives him money to take Elewa back home. He makes sure that he gets the driver's identification and car matriculation number to ensure that Elewa will be taken home safely. As the editor-in-chief of the National Gazette, he writes very challenging issues, putting forward strong opinions about issues that affect the masses and the state of Kangan. He's a crusading journalist who believes that the editorials are touching the minds of the masses, thereby awakening their consciences though Chris thinks otherwise. It is also through his editorials that the president had cancelled the death penalty or capital punishment, which had become the order of the day in Kangan. He had once been a staunch supporter of executing criminals. But with time, his opinion had changed. Ikem recalls the fateful day of the execution when the masses had been there early in the morning, suffering under the heat of the scorching sun while the seats of the VIPs are empty in the shade. He uses this situation to conclude that the masses are always the ones who suffer. They had been subjected to suffering during colonial period or era and must continue to endure the same suffering even when they are led by African leaders. The four criminals have committed misdemeanors, while the VIPs have looted money from the state treasury, yet they are free and dress in coats and move freely. During such events, pickpockets also profit to deprive people of their hard-earned money, especially the lady who also vomits on another man. After the execution of this man, Ikem writes a strong editorial asking the president to put an end to capital punishment. The president reads the editorial and signs a decree abolishing public executions. Chris tells Ikem that his editorials are hurting His Excellency and straining his relationship with him. He is also exhausted of defending Ikem in front of His Excellency and wants him to tone down his method of criticizing His Excellency. He tells Chris not to bother about defending him anymore because he can defend himself. As long as he remains the editor-in-chief of the National Gazette, he claims that he will write whatever he wants. Ikem wonders why Chris should be worshipping His Excellency like a god. He is also ready to tell His Excellency the truth anytime than fall for his deception like Chris does. He is ready to risk his own life for the truth and believes that his editorials are doing a great service to His Excellency, if only he reads them and takes them into consideration. Those who work with His Excellency only sing his praises rather than tell him the right thing to do. They flatter him, and he wishes that Chris joins forces with him to save the president. He retrospects about two incidents at Gele Gele Market when the Kangayan boxing champion had shown signs of humility despite his strength. And on the other hand, a soldier almost crushes a vendor and tells him, "If I kill you, I kill dog." This clearly shows that the brave are meek, while the weak show their strength in public. In retrospection, Ikem traces a brief knowledge about His Excellency. He was not very intelligent in school, neither was he dull. He was a gentleman who dreamt of becoming a doctor, but ended up to become a soldier. He had almost gotten married to a white lady, but he had learned from Chris's experience with Lois. At His Excellency's earlier stage of his career, Ikem had visited him and found him to be a simple and jovial man. He had never imagined that he could become a dictator and believes that with good advice, he can change. He also retrospects on Matt Medico's conflict with Dr. Ofe and the other doctors for gross medical malpractice. He had written an editorial and His Excellency had intervened to solve the matter. Ikem believes that the problem is not about the colonial master, but about the dictators of Africa, such as Idi Amin or Bokassa. His Excellency's dictatorial behavior had started after his return from an OAU summit where he had met President for Life Ngongo and admired his ways of doing things. He had even copied one of his slangs, Kabisa. Upon his return, he adopts Kabisa, becomes a silent person, and completely transforms himself into a dictator. The following points are worthy of note in this chapter. Take note of the relationship between Ikem and Elewa. It's very important to the development of the plot. Although a low-class woman, he loves her very much. Ikem is very serious about his work and pays attention to what happens to the nation and its people. He is also a crusader for change. Take note of his editorials that put him at opposite ends because they are not the president highlighting conflict. There is also irony in that petty thieves are executed, but the state thieves are given VIP treatment. There is also incompetence, as those who surround the president are simply praise singers. The chapter also makes use of retrospection through the execution of public execution and the incident at Gele Gele Market. The chapter also traces His Excellency's simple beginning and his transformation of becoming a dictator, especially when he meets other dictators at the OAU summit. Lastly, the problem about Africa is more about its leaders than external forces.